Hello, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Papa, along with my co-host, William McClellan. What's going on, Will?
Nothing much. Happy New Year, everybody. Excited to be back. Really excited about our guest today. Favorite day of the week. So let's do it, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to bring on Paul Sjoberg today. He and I met a while back. We had a personal trainer friend in common that kind of connected us. So Paul is a very successful guy. He founded a company, Leverage Information Technologies. It's an IT business, and then as a side business, he got into real estate investing and building to rent. And I'm really excited to have him on. He's a real estate investor and a family man. Loves his community and is excited to build a lot of things there to help benefit the people of the community. So without further ado, let's bring on Paul.
Hey, good day. Hey, good day, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with me today. Sam and Will, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, no, we're definitely appreciate you giving us your time because we know between your business and then these all these developments, we know you're a busy guy. So the fact that you'll help us teach others a little bit about real estate investing today and a little bit about your strategy, I think is going to be helpful not only to Will and myself who are interested in build to rent, but everybody who's interested in real estate investing.
Totally.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your guys' podcast. I think the authenticity is fantastic. The fact that you not only share your wins, but also some of your challenges and stuff is really awesome. So just blessed to be here today and happy to share my experience.
Sweet. Well, let's get it started. So for all the listeners out there, this is going to be a real fun one because we're doing our new setup. So first episode, everyone, you're going to get 2 pieces, and first episode will be a little bit more bite-sized about each person, and then we'll dive more into their business in part 2. So we're going to get started right now. Tell us a little bit about life before real estate, Paul. Childhood, college, where you grew up, just so everybody can kind of get to know you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, like you guys said, my name is Paul Sjoberg. I'm actually a military kid. So my dad was in the military for 20 plus years. So for about 17 years or so, he dragged me and my sister sort of all over the place.
Sure.
Until high school, I'd never lived anywhere longer than 2 or 3 years. And so, yeah, I settled in Florida for high school and then went off to college at the University of Florida for undergrad and grad school.
Nice.
So my undergrad is in environmental science. And I got towards the end of my undergrad and thought, I don't think I want to take water samples in the Everglades for 20 grand a year. So I stayed at the University of Florida and got a master's in geographic information systems, which is kind of more computer based. And coming out of college, I actually got hired by a company called Lockheed Martin, which is a very large IT contractor.
Pretty well known.
Small company that people might recognize.
Yeah.
And so for 15 years, I was up in the Washington, D.C. area. But sort of my story with real estate is a little bit of an interesting one. So my parents actually never bought a house because we moved around so much until I was like 18 or 19 years old. So I never had anyone like close to me having even experience of buying or selling a house. And I moved to Washington, D.C. with my brand new wife at the time. And this was like 2005. And the real estate market was just absolutely on fire. And Washington, D.C. was like hugely a seller's market. And so, I'm 20 something, I got a brand new wife. I'm like, how do I even, live the American dream here where prices are just absolutely ridiculous? Sure. And interest rates were actually pretty similar to what they are now, like in the 6s, in some cases the 7s. And so I started doing a lot of research on real estate and actually met with some real estate agents and brokers. And one particular broker was like, wow, you're like, how old are you? I'm like, I said, I'm 24, 25. He's like, you know more, like you've done more research and know more than like some of my clients who have bought and sold houses 2 or 3 times. He's like, have you ever thought about becoming an agent? And I was like, no, I never even considered that. I thought maybe it was hard, right? Like I thought, oh, that's probably really hard to do. Plus, I had my engineering job at Lockheed, and that paid pretty well. It paid well enough to live in a nice apartment and save some money. but yeah, he encouraged me to get my real estate license. So pretty much right out of college, I started working at Lockheed and I got my real estate license. And the
Oh, nice.
first deal I did was for my wife and I. And we bought this little 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath townhouse for 350 grand. And at that time, that was like a lot of money.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah. What's that townhouse worth today?
I'd have to go look. Because it's sort of like a starter town, starter home there, it doesn't appreciate as much as some of the
Right.
big homes. I would guess it's probably 450 or 500.
Mhm.
That's the next property I bought was in the down market. And I bought a 5-bedroom house for 440. Right. So think about that. Like in
Mhm.
Wow.
05, I paid 350 for a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. I got a 4-bedroom in the down market, or a 5-bedroom in the down market for like 440.
Wow. Yeah.
But I ended up selling that house for almost $900,000.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So the DC market treated me right.
Definitely. It sounds that way.
But yeah, I mean, my real estate story really is like I started as a real estate agent. I always did 2 things. I worked in IT and I worked in real estate.
Awesome.
And in like 2009, I left the broker I was with and started my own brokerage. And so my joke was that I was working for the largest defense contractor in the planet, and I was running the smallest real estate brokerage in Northern Virginia. And so I got all the benefits of that, right? Like you feel safe when you're working for a large company,
Sure.
but at the same time, I got all the tax benefits of having my own company. And there were some years where I sold $10 to $12 million in real estate and made far more money in real estate than I did working at Lockheed. And all my real estate friends were like, I don't know why you're keeping your Joe job, right? You should come do real estate full time. And but I never did, man. I always did both things.
Wow. So when was the transition into creating your own company?
Yeah, so 2009, I did True North Realty was my real estate brokerage that I started, and that sort of gave me the entrepreneurial bug. And then in 2016, Lockheed actually diversified or spun off a bunch of its IT stuff, and sold it to another company, but they retained me. But what they did was they basically sold off all my upward mobility, right? Like my opportunity for advancement, all that kind of stuff. And so I left Lockheed in early 2016 and started Leverage Information Technologies, just with me, with one person. Got myself billable first and working on a contract. And then over the course of the last 8 years or so, I built that company up to about 37, 38 people. And actually, this is something I hadn't even told you guys off air yet, but I actually merged that company into another one in September. So I got a nice influx of cash. It was sort of like they acquired my company, and I'm still working for them because I still have equity in the new entity. So
wow, congratulations! That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
2024 was a fun year.
A banner year, it sounds.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So tell us how you got started over in the big project. Doing all these big projects in Niceville. Like what was
when
first?
did you come down from DC?
Yeah. So I actually graduated from Niceville High School. I was class of 1998.
Cool.
And so, I left here and went off to college, and then I told you guys the whole rest of the story. But we had been coming down here pretty consistently for vacation as a family and to visit friends and stuff over the years. And in 2019, I actually bought a house down here with the idea of like, over the next 4 or 5 years, we'll all transition down here. I'll move my in-laws into it, and we'll just have this nice like family house. And then COVID hit, and we left Northern Virginia in like late March. I guess that was 2020, right? It's all running together now.
Right.
And expecting to be down here for a month or so, and then go back to Northern Virginia when things opened back up. And we ended up being here for 6 months. We brought like 3 outfits. I have 4 kids. We brought like 3 outfits, and so we had no clothes. We had nothing. We stayed for 6 months.
Oh my God.
But during that time, I realized like I can run my business from Niceville, and so I started instantly kind of plugging in with the entrepreneurs here and people who have successfully run businesses here, because I think there's a stigma that small towns and small markets, right, and especially in the South, are like kind of more slow and like everybody's on beach time. And I was actually concerned as someone who has a strong growth mindset and always has to be working on something, that I was going to move here, and I was going to be like in a desert of entrepreneurship and growth mindset. And that's Sam. That's the time period like we met and had lunch, right? And so
Yeah, exactly.
you were in my exploratory time frame of like trying to find go-getters and stuff. So yeah, when I moved down here, I realized like there is opportunity here. I had been purchasing single family rentals here for years. We have a personal portfolio of 10 properties here. But when I moved here, I kind of realized that I was part of the problem, that there was a bit of a housing shortage here, especially in starter homes. And so instead of buying these 3-bedroom, 2-bath, small square footage homes, I decided I wanted to be a part of the solution, and we started basically building ground up for retaining, so for renting, and trying to push more supply into the market of kind of lower square footage opportunities for people to live here. So if you're familiar with the area that we live in, like Niceville is very expensive. There are areas that surround it that are a little bit cheaper, but if you want people to live and work in your community, you have to give them more options than single family homes. And so we've been working on a lot of ground up small communities, but also ground up multifamily.
That's awesome.
What are the square footage of those of the homes that you built? As you built, like, I guess let's talk about a couple of your different projects. But you're like in your neighborhood home, like that you did. Weren't those all? Didn't you do a little neighborhood of those?
Yeah, we did. So when I got back to Niceville, I ran into an old buddy from high school and found out that he had sold his landscaping business and was doing ground up construction, and he was selling through primarily. And so I partnered with him, and we did a couple of single family houses together. And then he had an opportunity where he had some acreage that he had already tied up. And he was like, what do you want to do with this? And we thought about doing an apartment complex, but we decided upon a small community. And so we built 7 2-bedroom, 2-bath properties and 2 3-bedroom, 2-bath properties. And the 2-bedroom, 2-bath are right under 1,000 square feet, and the 3-bedroom, 2-bath are just above or right at 1,000 square feet, which square footage wise, right, is like at the bottom of what you generally find. But they're well designed. They have really tall ceilings. They like really feel bigger than they actually are. And we retained all 9 of those, and our property manager had them rented in like under 2 months. I mean, they just went really fast. So yeah, it's been good. It's called The Clearing.
The Clearing. Okay, cool. We'll check that out. And then where is that in Niceville?
That's actually in Valparaiso, which is the sister city right next door to Niceville.
Yep.
It's funny, the boundaries between Valpo and Niceville get kind of jagged. If you go down the street like 4 or 5 lots, you're in Niceville, but this particular unit, the property is in Valpo. So
very cool. So so with that project, you got you set. I kind of want to take a step back, because I think something that's really interesting that you mentioned is honing into successful entrepreneurs as you were moving into a new place. I feel like a lot of the listeners that we have are outside of the Panhandle, and a lot of guests that we've had from other places, and they moved to the Panhandle or vice versa. And something I think that's really critical for some of the listeners is how you plugged yourself in with the right people. And as you're, like you said, you were in that exponential growth phase of finding entrepreneurs that were doing things that you were interested in, or just doing things that were bigger, instead of being in that desert of growth, non-growth mindset, I guess.
Well, and a lot of people will feel they could be in a bigger market too, and they'll feel the same way, right? Because they're just lost in the sea of humanity. Well, if your listeners love tactics, like I'm a tactics guy, so I'll give you the exact tactic that I used. You start with someone, you have coffee or lunch, you invite them out, you pay, and you tell them the goal, right? Like, I'm looking for hard driving people. You seem to be like one of those people. I would love to just get to know you and hear your story. People who are successful in general love to tell you about how they got there and share their experience. And so That's where I started. I had lunch and coffee with one person. I kind of have a set of questions and kind of things that I go through with them, just like you guys do on your podcast, right? You kind of have a set of questions. But my favorite question is at the end, especially if I thought the dinner or the meal or the coffee went well. My favorite question is who are 2 or 3 people that are like us? Who in the area do you know that are like we are? And so every meeting I have, I get 2 or 3 more names, and the list just gets longer and gets longer and gets longer. And it's an endless list of people I get to meet with.
It's funny because I don't know if Sam has already asked you this, but we do that at the end of every podcast to get more people.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I don't know where you originally got that tatty, Paul, but it's actually something that we got from John Maxwell, because he actually said, you got to get yourself out of the people pile.
Yeah, the people pile. I love that.
But then one of the things he always says to ask, whenever he goes to lunch is, who do you know that I should know? Which is, the exact same, question you're asking. So it's a great.
And that tactic works really well because oftentimes too, you'll climb the societal success ladder within your community. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know your podcast goes beyond our region, but like there are landowners and there are developers here that have been here for generations, like literally hundreds of years.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
their family names are the names on the schools here.
They
own the most land. Right. And
mm-hmm.
through this tactic, like I climbed that ladder and I've met with all of those people. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Awesome.
so then I just kind of put them into my, like a care and feeding, tactic of just following up with them and being an authentic and kind human being and gifting them books from time to time and different things. And so when you build authentic relationships like that, sometimes deals and opportunities fall in your lap that wouldn't have otherwise occurred.
Totally. So tell the listeners in that time frame about how many lunches and coffees and things, how many people you met with, so that people can kind of wrap their head around and create a goal maybe for 2025 of, hey, I want to get to know these people, and this, Paul's really successful, so I'm going to follow his tactic. But we don't want them to think like 1 or 2 lunches are going to be good enough.
Oh, no. So this is actually something I've been doing for a long time. Even when I was up in Washington, D.C., I would do it. So I would set aside 3 to 4 hours every week. And it's usually the same 3 or 4 hours, like a noon to 3 on a Friday is usually when I would do it. I would pick a small business like a coffee shop or a restaurant that had great service and had like steady employees, like the same people there every week. And so I would show up there every week and I would schedule back to back meetings. So I'd have two to three meetings at the same restaurant every single week. And I would attempt to fill my calendar every single week. It didn't always work. Someone would cancel or what have you. But that is a tactic I actually learned from it was a book. I think it's called 7 Levels of Communication, Turning Relationships into Referrals. I might have got some of the words wrong, but that was pretty close. And what that tactic does is, because you're in a place that you feel comfortable and because the wait staff and the owner knows you, it's sort of the Cheers effect where everybody knows your name and, the level of service you get there is higher. And then, of course, like the banter back and forth with you and the wait staff gives you instant equity with the person sitting across the table because those people know you already, right? Mm-hmm. And then the idea of putting them back to back is to also create a culture of being a glue person, a person that brings people together. And so I may have a meeting with Sam at noon and we're finishing up lunch, and I'll tell Sam like, hey, just to let you know, like I got another person coming around 1:30 or so, not to rush you out. And maybe I'm meeting with Will at 1:30. And when Will walks in, I wave him over. I'm like, hey, I want to introduce you to Sam. And Sam already knows he's on his way out because it's very overt about this whole thing, right? But maybe now Sam and Will get to connect, right? I get to introduce you to each other, and boom, a podcast is born 6 months later, right? Or a relationship, and you guys think, wow, like that Paul guy is the one that connected us, right? And there's value in being that type of person as well. So those are the 2 tactics that I've always tried to marry together. Is like, how do I continue to meet people and meet the right people, build authentic relationships with them, and then connect them to one another.
That definitely, and I want to say, to all the listeners that Paul reached out to me, and I mean, and that's something I thought was very cool, because like we didn't know each other, so I mean he got my name, and you just have to sometimes like just take charge and like reach out, because I was flattered to be named and was ready to go out to lunch, and stuff, so it was definitely a good experience, and I actually learned from Paul on that. I actually kind of took notes on the whole whole process, and and done the same thing since then in terms of connecting with people, just because it I definitely looked up to you after that lunch on how you ran everything in your life.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I found it awesome too, because I just saw so much of you in me, like some of the similarities of running entrepreneurial businesses, and then using some of the cash and growth from those things to spin off into real estate. So yeah, sky's the limit, man. It's been fun to kind of watch both of you guys over the course of the last year, not only nail the podcast, but work on your own projects. So that's cool.
We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, Paul, the master networker. I love it. There it is.
Yeah.
Well, in short, tell us a little bit about life today, careers, investments, to kind of prep everyone as we take a deeper dive into part 2. And just kind of give an overview of both real estate as well as information. What is it?
Leverage
information technologies.
Yeah,
and then
it's a mouthful.
Yeah, LIT, huh?
Yeah, that's right, LIT.
So
yeah, not a problem. I'm in an interesting season in my life, because I mentioned to you guys that I've merged my company into another one, but I'm still responsible for profit and loss and the people, and I intend to stay involved for a long time. So sort of my past experience of doing two things is going to continue. So I'll be running my section of the business. But I've got all these side real estate projects that I'm working on. So over the course of 2024, we had the clearing finish out. We did a lot of acquisitions of land. A couple of them we had to get rezoned. A couple of them we've had to clear and start fresh. But we feel like we have between my partners and I probably four, maybe 5 projects that'll take us through 2025 and into 2026.
okay,
and they're primarily a mixture of like ground up multifamily, and then either building townhouses or single family homes, which will probably sell through on those.
Okay.
So we'll have kind of a mixture of buy and hold and sell through.
Wow. So you've already fed a pretty deep pipeline for the next, I guess, 12 to 18 months. Well, before we hop into that next episode, some things that I'm already writing down is would love to hear about the acquisitions, land clearing, rezoning.
I'll put the rezoning on mine too.
Yeah,
I want to know exactly how the rezoning process goes.
Yeah,
and that sounds so intimidating.
And I know it changes from county to county, state to state, but this is all super exciting, and I don't know. I can't wait to see you guys in part 2.
Definitely. We'll take a deeper dive in part 2. So if you want to know how it's all really done, listen into this next episode.
Let's get into it.